This is a Wave breaking news alert.
Good morning, I'm Shannon Kogan. Election Day 2024 in the books. And breaking just in the last few minutes, quite a comeback. Donald Trump has won back the White House. He'll become the 47th president of the United States. Now, locally, there were some technical problems that caused a headache for some voters in Jefferson County. Some had to wait for a long time to cast their ballot. Josh Ninke will be live taking a deeper look into that this morning. Also, Indiana will have a new governor after Hoosiers made their voices heard. Republican Senator Mike Braun coming out on top against his competitors. Wave News reporter Marissa Burke will recap that along with some other big ticket races. But first, let's get to the presidential race. Wave News reporter Olivia Russell in the studio to break down the new developments just in the newsroom in the race to the White House.
And Shannon, this map looks different from it did an hour ago. Former President Donald Trump with 277 electoral college votes. That puts him past the 270 he needed, winning 27 states, including Wisconsin. Wisconsin is what really sealed the deal for him right now, winning those 10 electoral votes. They just called this about 30 minutes ago. 98% of the votes counted there, and he beat out Vice President Kamala Harris by about 30,000 votes. So that's a really big one, considering in 2020, Wisconsin voted blue. But taking a look at the rest of the states, we pointed out those key battleground states that would really make the difference for him here. That's Georgia, North Carolina, and then Pennsylvania, also a really big one, because Trump even mentioned what happened in Pennsylvania, that assassination attempt, when he addressed the crowd last night.
Many people have told me that God spared my life for a reason. And that reason was to save our country and to restore America to greatness. And now we are going to fulfill that mission together. We're going to fulfill that mission.
So some of those states still too early to call or too close to call, including Michigan, Arizona, Nevada, and Alaska. You can see they're all leaning Democrat or Republican right now, but it wouldn't make a difference because Donald Trump has those 277 electoral college votes. Shannon.
Olivia, thank you very much. Okay, we'll have much more on Election Day coverage, but first, it is raining out there. Here's Tawana with a check of the weather.
Yeah, we're continuing to watch these rounds of rain rotating through our area as a cold front sits directly over us right now. So for those of you from Jefferson County in Indiana all the way into Frankfort, you are dealing with that moderate rain coming down. A little bit heavier in portions of Shelby County and Spencer County, where you see that yellow on your screen. That rain continues to pour down across the metro as of right now. And then for those of you further to the west, especially Meade County, Breckinridge County, and Grayson County, this is where we're seeing some of the heaviest rain falling as of right now. Our temperatures for everyone sitting in the 60s, and for a lot of us, this is where we're going to stay temperature-wise throughout the rest of the day, keeping those rain chances high for the morning, starting to dry out as we head into the afternoon, but notice I haven't completely taken away the rain chances for the afternoon and evening still, because an isolated shower and areas of drizzle still possible as we head into the evening hours. Looking ahead to tomorrow, starting off with a few more rounds of rain in our forecast, especially across Kentucky as of right now. And then once we end the work week, plenty of sunshine with those highs back into the 60s.
Thank you, Tawana. So we showed you those long lines yesterday morning as the polls opened, and they stayed long at precincts around Jefferson County. Two groups tried to get voting hours extended. A judge ultimately decided that was not going to happen. Wave News reporter Josh Ninke live at the Jefferson County Clerk's office with more on exactly what happened and what happens now.
Yeah, Shannon, the Kentucky Democrats and the ACLU quickly filed that lawsuit to try to extend those polling hours yesterday. A judge made a decision not to let that happen, essentially at the last minute yesterday. So some voters took hours to cast their ballots. We showed you these lines all day yesterday. The issue ultimately came down to the machines that verified their identities. The Secretary of State says it actually came down to human error. Updated software should have been downloaded before Election Day, not the morning of, he said. Jefferson County Clerk Bobby Holzclaw released a statement addressing the situation yesterday, while the ACLU says this never should have happened.
We understand the frustrations of those facing long wait times. We want you to know that this historic turnout, driven by the presidential election, is contributing to delays at some locations.
their ability to vote has been compromised, and the government itself is to blame here for creating these extensive delays. And so we were simply asking the court to rectify that, and unfortunately the court disagreed.
While the lawsuit filed yesterday is essentially done, we're not sure if the ACLU or Kentucky Democrats plan to sue again over what happened in general. Of course, we will continue to follow this story today and keep you posted on what happens. Live in Louisville, Josh Dinky, Wave News.
Thanks, Josh. Attorney General Russell Coleman says the state's election fraud hotline got nearly 350 calls yesterday with complaints and questions about voting machines, electioneering, campaign violations, and more. And then for early voting, they got 350 calls, so a total of about 700. Election Integrity Command Center takes those complaints, then they look into them and decide if they need to investigate further. Secretary of State Michael Adams wants voters to know it wasn't the technology that failed, but rather human error that created those long lines in Louisville.
We'll find out after the election. We'll review this thoroughly, and if we need to take action, we will. If I need to request legislation to prevent this in the future, we certainly will. If I need to implement a regulation, we'll do that as well. Right now, I'm not trying to attack anybody or blame anyone. I just want to fix the problem.
Of the complaints received by state officials, a large number of them were from Jefferson County. Now, Kentuckians also decided on 2 ballot initiatives. One was about school choice. Kentucky voters shot down Amendment 2, and they did so in overwhelming fashion. About 65% of people opposed the change. Now, had it passed, it would have allowed state funds to be allocated to private and charter schools, as well as homeschooled students. The head of the Kentucky Education Association argued the amendment would have hurt schools already underfunded.
We're underfunding our public schools by about 29%. Imagine what our public schools could do if they were fully funded, if we were providing all the resources that our public schools need all across the Commonwealth.
Those in support of school choice say they're back to square one. The Jefferson County Republican Party vice chair says they will continue working to give more say to parents.
We still need choices for our kids' school. We still need to be able to pick the curriculum for the children that we want them to have, and we still need for them to be able to be educated to get a fair chance at life.
In a statement, Kentucky Students First said in part, Kentucky students deserve better, and our resolve to serve students over system remains unchanged. Bell also told us it's important parents are involved in their kids' schools and advocates for their needs. Kentucky voters also decided on another change to the state constitution, and they approved this change. It will add a line to the Constitution specifically about voting rights, saying no person who is not a citizen of the U.S. shall be allowed to vote in this state. More than 60% voted in favor of this change. Nearly 40% opposed it. And some of the closest races locally were for a seat on Louisville's Metro Council. 7 seats were up for grabs. And take a look at how tight this one is. In District 12, it includes parts of South Louisville. Right now, Councilman Rick Blackwell is projected to lose to his challenger, Jonathan Joseph. They're separated by around 100 votes. All precincts are reporting. District 14 also in a tight race, only separated by a couple hundred votes. This area includes parts of Sun Valley. Republican Crystal Bast carrying a slight edge over incumbent Councilwoman Cindy Fowler. Bast has about 52% of the vote. District 24 will have a new council member. That's Republican Jenny Mulvey-Rollridge. She has an advantage over Democrat Tyra Thomas Walker. Current council member Madonna Flood did not run for re-election this time. If you'd like to see more of the Metro Council races, just go to our website, wave3.com. And the votes are in too for the Hoosier State. Senator Mike Braun will now be the next governor of Indiana. Voters re-elected Attorney General Todd Rokita too. Races decided by more than 400,000 votes. And here's Marissa Burke to break down these results for us.
Outside of the presidential election, those were the two big races on the ballot in Indiana. But many aren't surprised by those results. Senator Mike Braun is the newly elected governor. Republican Governor Eric Holcomb could not run for re-election because of term limits. Republicans have controlled Indiana's governor's office since 2004. Braun now becomes one of the rare senators to successfully win a governorship over the last century. Since 1900, just 21 sitting or former U.S. senators across the country have been elected governor, or according to Smart Politics. Here's what Senator Braun shared after the results.
Finally now, those that didn't believe know that when I put my mind to it, I'm going to do it in an understated way. I'm going to overperform and deliver results, and you can count on that when I hit the ground running.
Senator Braun led his Democratic opponent, Jennifer McCormick, by 400,000 votes. Here's some other updates. Hoosiers voted yes on the constitutional amendment, which will revise the line of succession for governor. It removes the office that's not even existed anymore. Reports showed there was a margin of less than 200,000 votes for that. Later on Sunrise, you'll get to hear from the re-elected Attorney General Todd Rokita. Reporting live, Marissa Burke, Wave News.
Thank you, Marissa. Okay, so with Braun now moving on to the governor's office, Indiana voters also had to choose his replacement in the U.S. Senate. Republican Jim Banks is going to Washington. He won about 60% of the vote. He beat out Democrat Dr. Valerie McRae and Libertarian Andrew Horning. Right now, Banks represents Indiana's 3rd district in the northeastern part of the Hoosier state. So Republicans have won control of the U.S. Senate. Democrats fighting to take back the House. GOP senators are expected to elect a new leader next week as longtime Republican leader and Kentucky Senator Mitch McConnell is stepping down from that role after a record 18 years in that position. All right, let's get a quick check of your traffic right now because we have some rain out there this morning. Is that impacting things?
Well, we have a traffic alert for you right now, Shannon, on I-264 at Bells Lane, where the eastbound lane's down to just the shoulder for traffic to get around because of a crash there. You can see those roads very wet right now, so I'm sure that played a part in this crash. We just got this into our newsroom, so we'll keep an eye out for this situation and how it impacts traffic this morning. But again, that rain certainly going to make things messy out there. And we're seeing that all over the metro. Most of these traffic cameras with water and rain all over the lens, so you really can't even see much out there. But there's a look at where our crash is on our traffic map. Everywhere else is all green right now. Expect to see some pockets of yellow out here as people are slowing down to keep a close eye on that rain. But Tawana, how long is that rain going to stick around?
It's going to be around for most of the morning commute. So for those of you heading out, just keep in mind for your windshield wiper index, going to put it at a 3 out of 5 for today because that rain is locally heavy in some spots. Now we'll continue to watch for the rain chances highest in the morning, drying out once we get into the afternoon for most of us, but even more rain on the way for tomorrow. I'll explain after the break.
Thank you, Tawana. Education for inmates. We'll look at how a new partnership with KCTCS is helping inmates get a second chance coming up on Sunrise.
Now, Wave News.
It's 6:15, and the Kentucky Community and Technical College System is celebrating after helping thousands of inmates earn their GEDs. Over the last 5 years, more than 4,400 inmates have earned their diploma and a new sense of pride, too, at no cost. It's part of an effort to help them build better lives and lower recidivism rates. The president of the KCTS says these opportunities help improve the lives of many.
Not only do they have a trade that may lead to a job, but we know that Kentuckians who leave the criminal justice system and have a job are less likely to return, and that's good policy for Kentucky.
14 KCTCS colleges are service providers for adult education. All right, 6:15 right now, and we have a line of rain moving in, and we should just kind of get ready for this for a couple of days.
Yeah, get ready for multiple rounds of rain coming up over the next 10 days. So after a quite long dry stretch, we are back into that wet setup across the area. This cold front just draped across wave country, basically sitting over the Ohio River as of right now, and that is where we're seeing the majority majority of the rain just continuing to ride directly along this front. So from Madison to Frankfort, locked in with the rain, seeing some more of those showers and even a couple of thunderstorms stretching from Scottsburg down towards Shepherdsville. In the metro, seeing more of that light to moderate rain continuing to fall. For those of you further to the west, though, this is where we're seeing some of the heaviest rain from near Corydon all the way through Brandenburg and down into portions of Breckinridge County, where you see those pockets of yellow, orange, and red showing up there. So we'll keep an eye on where we're seeing some of the heaviest rainfall, because it's in those spots that we're getting closer to 2 inches of rain so far. And remember, we have rain in the forecast through most of this morning and even into tomorrow morning. Everywhere you see the light green, that's around ½ an inch of rain. Where you see those darker shades of green, that's closer to 1 inch, and the yellow is where we're seeing closer to 2 inches of rain that's already fallen with this system. Looking towards downtown and especially Spaghetti Junction, you're seeing those shiny roads, already seeing a crash on 264 at Bell's Lane. So if you're traveling in that area eastbound, heads up, you're going to deal with some issues there. Your temperatures are sitting in the 60s across the board, so another warm morning. Our Futurecast shows that we're going to be dealing with these rounds of rain continuing to ride right along that front for the morning hours. So we'll deal with wave after wave of rain for the morning. But then we get towards lunch and we watch this band of rain starting to fall apart in our area. That will continue through the afternoon hours, and by this evening, only an isolated rain chance around, with a lot of us still sitting in the 60s. Once we head into later on tonight, still watching that isolated rain chance, but rain chances start to go up after midnight because that front that's currently moving through our area doesn't move very far. And since it's still nearby for your Thursday, we'll watch for additional rounds of rain for your Thursday morning. These could be locally heavy at times. As of right now, for tomorrow morning, mainly focused in on Kentucky to see a better chance of rain compared to Indiana. Getting further through your Thursday, drying out into Thursday afternoon, and we'll watch for those temperatures on the comfortable side before things really start to clear out and cool down for your Thursday night. So I remember how I said we already had around 1 to 2 inches of rain in some spots. Well, some of you could add on an additional 1 to 2 inches of rain, especially across Kentucky. But remember, if that band of rain moves further to the north for your Thursday morning, then we'll see those higher rainfall totals also starting to shift a little bit further to the north. So stay weather aware. For your Friday, dry, sunny across the area, 60s for your highs. Keeping highs in the 60s over the upcoming weekend, and watching this massive system basically throwing rain into our region for the second half of your Saturday into Sunday. Now it's looking like more of Sunday will be dealing with those rain chances based on some of the modeling just coming in. So I'm watching that. So don't be surprised if you see the weekend forecast changing just a bit. Once we get into your Sunday night, we quickly dry out, and we look to stay on the drier side into your Monday too. So Veterans Day trending dry with some slightly cooler temperatures. It doesn't take us very long to warm back up by the middle of next week, as yet another system brings even more of that rain for next Wednesday and Thursday. We'll have much more of sunrise after the break.
Here's a look at the current Kentucky Lottery jackpots. The Kentucky Lottery, over $5 billion in grants and scholarships.
A Kentucky voter says a poll worker ordered him and other voters wearing T-shirts supporting Donald Trump to remove them. Voter Jason Drawn says the Kenton County poll worker told him he could not wear his shirt because it was against the law. Secretary of State spokeswoman said that the poll worker was wrong. Kentucky voters are allowed to wear candidate gear such as T-shirts into polling locations to vote, but then they have to leave after casting their ballot. Drawn says he wants more training on election laws for poll workers in the state.
If I do my due diligence to be on top of them, that I shouldn't get there and be told by one of them that I'm not in line, you know, and then have to go through all that to come back and be told you were right.
The Kenton County clerk confirmed at least 2 other incidents where voters were told to remove campaign gear. She called it a mistake and says a poll worker was asked to apologize to voters. Well, because so many people said they felt stressed out and nervous with the election, some churches in our area stepped in to provide emotional relief. The Reverend at St. Paul United Methodist Church says it was a no-brainer to open the church so people could go in and pray on Election Day. Reverend Darren Brandon says it was important to create a place so people could come together. He says prayer realizes the presence of God, and opening the church to everyone on Election Day was a way to extend hospitality and emphasize the importance of community.
We're just reminding folks that we have this hope. We have a sure and steadfast hope, an anchor for the soul, which is our faith. It's Jesus for us.
And St. Aloysius Catholic Church in Shepherdsville was also open for prayer on Election Day. All right, here's Tawana right now as we take a look at the next 10 days, and I see a lot of rain on that.
Yeah, we're watching quite a few rounds of rain coming our way over the next 10 days. Already dealing with that rain moving through right now across a good chunk of wave country. Will dry out as we head into the afternoon and evening, with more rain pushing in once we get into tomorrow morning. Some, but not all of us, will get in on that batch. Now, once we head into your Friday, plenty of sunshine, and that's going to be a quiet day before more rain moves in for the second half of your Saturday into Sunday. Now, Monday, still looking quiet. Tuesday, quiet. But then here we go again. For the middle of next week, another system will bring some more of that rain, even some thunderstorms into our forecast, and help to drive our temperatures down into the upper 50s and low 60s.
Thanks, Tawana. A new survey from the Kentucky Department of Education is shedding light on the connection between mental health issues and substance abuse in schools. The Youth Risk Behavior Survey found 24% of sophomore high school students who reported using nicotine in the past month also reported a suicide attempt. In the past year, 29% of students using marijuana in the past month also reported a suicide attempt in the past year. 8% of students who did not have any substance use reported a suicide attempt. Department of Education's Judy Vanderhaar says stress plays a big role in the use of substances.
The impact of stress and how it's easier for kids, in your estimation, to grab a vape to cope with their stress and to find a counselor to talk to, or to be able to talk to a counselor. A lot of young people are using this to cope with their distress, and it's actually worsening it because of what it is doing into the brain. And
well, if you are struggling with mental health, you can call that national hotline, 988. Morning after Election Day, and some people had to deal with some long lines yesterday. Some waited an hour or even more to cast their ballot. What an official says caused that issue, coming up on Wave News Sunrise.
Now, Wave News Sunrise.
Good morning, November 6th, the day after Election Day, and former President Donald Trump making quite a comeback. We're going to have much more on that coming up, but yeah, we have some rain out there today.
It is pouring down for those of you heading out and about.
What is that big yellow thing?
It's just a water droplet reflecting some of that light. It makes things a little bit more artistic.
Yeah, it does.
You have some abstract art going on with the weather this morning. But yeah, we're seeing some more of that rain rotating through our region because of the cold front that is currently sitting over us. Now, we're watching this band of rain starting to break apart for those of you further to the southwest, but even more showers are off towards our southwest. So we'll see these waves continuing to move through for the morning hours. But as of right now, for those of you from Madison to Frankfort, you're seeing quite a bit of that moderate to at times heavy rain, with some of the heaviest rain right now falling from portions of Floyd County down into portions of Harrison County, and in the very western portions of the metro from Portland down towards Valley Station. This is where we're seeing some pockets of very heavy rain for your morning commute. Now, for those of you in Meade County south into Grayson County, also seeing a line of heavy rain in your area. Mainly moderate rain showing up from E-Town over towards Hodgenville. A little bit drier right now for those of you in Bardstown, but everything is going to gradually shift off towards the south and east as the day goes along. Your temperatures are basically sitting in the 60s. Cooler for those of you behind the front in southern Indiana. This is where we're seeing low 60s. At ahead of the front, still some upper 60s showing up as of right now. As we continue throughout the day, going to keep those temperatures basically in the 60s for the majority of the day. Rain around for the morning, drying out once we head into the afternoon, but still keeping some of these clouds overhead. And once we head into tomorrow morning, much more of that rain coming our way. Shannon.
Thank you. And former President Donald Trump has more than the 270 delegates he needed to secure the White House. Votes in Wisconsin came in, so he got those 10 electoral votes. So he's set to become the 47th president of the United States, only the second president to secure non-consecutive terms. We're bringing you team coverage this morning from our local races. First, let's go to Olivia, taking a look at the presidential race and how that played out in Kentucky.
And Shannon, you mentioned Donald Trump has 270
277 electoral college votes right now. 27 states won, including Kentucky. Let's see how our 120 counties voted. You can see the majority of them red. Only 2 counties voting blue in this election cycle, and no surprise here, it's the Lexington and Louisville areas doing it. Jefferson County voting 57% for Kamala Harris. Same thing in Lexington area. In Fayette County, 57% of the votes there. And the only spot where it was even close was in Franklin County. That's the Frankfort area. Donald Trump just barely eking out the win there with 51% of the votes. But the rest of the state, again, it's a very strong red state here. So Pike County, 82% Donald Trump. Let's head to another one. Pulaski County, 82% there as well. And then let's check out Graves County. 80%. So no surprise here that most of the state voted strongly in favor of Donald Trump. 98% of the votes counted so far, and we know the state voted Republican in 2020. So no surprise to see this so red, but here are all the states that voted for former President Donald Trump, and Kentucky giving him 8 of the Electoral College votes, pushing him to 277. Shannon.
Thanks, Olivia. And some voters across Jefferson County said they had to wait for hours to cast their ballot yesterday, and a lawsuit was filed during the day trying to keep the polls open longer. That did not happen. Wave News reporter Josh Ninke is at the Jefferson County Election Center with more on what did happen.
Yeah, Shannon, the county clerk blamed the issues on huge voter turnout, while the Secretary of State says it was human error. It all boiled down to those machines that verify a voter's identity. There was a required update to the software that poll workers did yesterday morning, and that reportedly bogged the machines down, sometimes taking more than an hour just to print a ballot. We spoke to several voters who were surprised by the delay, including Walter Holbrook.
Off and on with them, they would shut down on them. But like I was telling the lady in there, I've been coming here for 7 years, and this is the first time it's ever been this crowded, no matter what time I've been over, so.
Kentucky Democrats and the ACLU then sued to keep the polls open until 8 o'clock so more people would have the chance to vote. Now, the judge made a decision pretty close to 6 p.m. that they did not make enough of a case, and that was when polls ultimately closed. Now, while that lawsuit played out quickly, we're not sure if the Kentucky Democrats or ACLU plan to file another lawsuit over just the entire thing that happened. But, of course, we'll keep you posted. Live here in Louisville, Josh Ninke, Wave News.
Thank you, Josh. Some Kentucky counties added extra security at their polling locations. Rockcastle County, one of them. Officers from the school resource department were at each of the 3 elementary schools. There were also Mount Vernon police officers at the courthouse and fire department locations. The county clerk, Danetta Ford Allen, says tensions can run high, especially during a presidential election.
We just wanted to give the people a sense of calm and security while they were there voting, as well as our precinct workers, in case the tensions are high for any reason.
Allen said the measure was just a precaution. Several Kentucky cities and counties decided if they would allow medical cannabis to be sold in their area. 3 counties have already told the state no. Those are the ones in red: LaRue, Greene, and Adair counties. Some cities and counties are asking voters to decide whether they want in or out of the medical cannabis program. Those counties: Bullitt, Carroll, Hardin, Meade, Marion, Nelson, Henry, Shelby, and Taylor counties. So Taylor and Bullitt counties voted yes, and cities with this question on their ballot included Greensburg, Vine Grove, and Bardstown, Eminence, Mount Vernon, and Shelbyville, and Mount Washington voted yes to medical cannabis. We have more results for you on wave3.com. Congressman Morgan McGarvey won re-election in Kentucky's 3rd congressional district. The Democrat heading back to Capitol Hill to represent Louisville for another 2 years. His opponent was Republican Mike Craven. In Indiana, 2 of the big races on the ballot for Hoosiers were split by a landslide of more than 400,000 votes each. We're talking about the gubernatorial and attorney general races. Let's go to Marissa Burke, who's live at the Clark County Clerk's office with more.
Senator Mike Braun is the newly elected governor of Indiana, and Attorney General Todd Rokita has been re-elected. Braun now becomes one of the rare senators to successfully win a governorship over the century. Hoosiers also voted yes on the constitutional amendment yesterday, which changes the line of succession for governor, removing a role that no longer exists. Reports, though, Hoosiers made that call with a margin of less than 200,000 votes. Hoosiers also re-elected their current Attorney General, Todd Rokita. Here's what Rokita had to say after the results.
So for the next 4 years, we will build on the record amounts of money we recovered for Hoosiers. We will continue to protect Hoosier jobs and electricity prices from going up any higher, and we'll protect our economy.
Before becoming Attorney General, Rokita was an Indiana congressman and the Secretary of State. Now, Rokita has served Indiana in that role since 2020, and in the 2020 election, he won that race by the largest number of votes in Indiana history for a person running for state office. Reporting live, Marissa Burke, Wave News.
Thank you, Marissa. Republican Erin Houchin won re-election to the U.S. House in Indiana's 9th congressional district. She defeated Timothy Peck, an emergency room physician who's created 3 mission-based health technology companies. Houchin campaigned on securing the U.S.-Mexico border, support for Israel, cutting federal spending, and opposing abortion rights. Peck ran on simplifying health care. He also ran on abortion rights, securing the border, too, but immigration judges and asylum officers as well as more. All right, we have some traffic alerts this morning. We're dealing with some rain, and this could be contributing to that.
Yeah, and that's certainly something we always think about when we see a crash in rainy weather. It's got to be the weather contributing to this. So we're taking a live look at I-264, where the eastbound lanes at Bells Lane are shut down. People are still able to get around on the shoulder, though, but at least 2 vehicles involved in this one. You can see emergency crews still out there working. People are walking around, so make sure you're being very careful around that area. It even looks like that fire truck just blocked traffic for a while, so we're keeping a close eye on this. Already seeing that traffic impact right there, where that's starting to turn red, and I can imagine this will only grow depending on how long that fire truck is there blocking that right-hand shoulder. That seems to be our only issue right now. It's still slow right now, moving northbound on 65, though, but we know 65 can also be a mess when it starts to rain, so I am totally okay with seeing this yellow. It probably just means people have slowed down a bit just to be extra safe out there. But Tawana, how long can we expect this rain to stick around?
Well, we're looking at the rounds of rain in the forecast for this morning, so that's something we'll continue to keep an eye on. Other than that, things are looking pretty quiet once we get into the afternoon, so we'll keep an eye on rain chances going down as we head into the afternoon hours. Now looking ahead, more rain for tomorrow. I'll talk about that in just a bit.
Well, an Indiana woman waited in line to cast her vote yesterday. That's something a lot of people do, right? But it's something she says she's so privileged to be able to do. She's 95 years old. Aubrey Hageson lives in Evansville, Indiana, and yesterday she got out to the polls. Hageson says she voted for the first time back in 1953 for former President Dwight D. Eisenhower, and since then she hasn't missed voting in an election.
I thought I was going to miss election because it was such long lines the other day, but my great son-in-law said he'd get me here today. And we lucked out because we didn't have a long line. Now people are coming, and that's important.
She looks awesome for 95, so she says it is a privilege to get out to vote. Way to go.
I love that.
Yes.
And I love her message as well. Always a privilege, right?
Yeah, we've had huge turnouts all across the country this year. Yeah.
So we're going to be keeping an eye on that. And, of course, the rain moving through our area for today.
Good timing,
and then tomorrow, and then the weekend, and then next week. Yeah, quite a bit of rain coming our way. I'll talk about all of that in just 30 seconds. Good morning. Meteorologist Tawana Andrew here with a check of your forecast. And for today, what we're seeing, this front draped across wave country. And we're going to continue to keep an eye on it as it very slowly pushes off towards the east. Keep in mind, this is going to linger as we head into tonight and then tomorrow. So that's going to keep those rounds of rain in our forecast for a little while longer. As of right now, that initial band of rain weakening a bit. So not as much heavy rain across most of the area, but we'll keep an eye on some pockets here and there. For those of you from Madison to Frankfort, moderate to at times heavy rain showing up in your area, with some of the heaviest rain right now in the Louisville metro, right along 264 and stretching back through the Jefferson Memorial Forest and into Valley Station. This does push further to the south in the portions of Hardin County and Meade County too, so we're going to be keeping an eye on that. So this initial batch of rain is starting to fall apart, but we're watching even more of those showers and thunderstorms off towards our southwest that will rise straight along the front as the morning continues. As of right now, here's the radar estimated rainfall accumulation that we've seen. For those of you in those lighter shades of green, that's closer to ½ inch of rain. But then if you're in a darker shade of green, that's closer to an inch. But some pockets of Perry County, parts of Harrison County, and parts of Breckenridge County have already seen closer to 2 inches of rain. And remember, we're going to be dealing with this several times over the next couple of days. Looking into Spaghetti Junction, everything rolling smoothly there, which is good news. But don't forget, with some of those pockets of heavier rain, ponding on the roadway can't be really discounted, so that's something you'll have to watch. We're sitting in the 60s across the region for this morning, and our futurecast shows that this band of rain will fall apart as we get closer to 7, 8 o'clock. But another wave of rain riding along the front comes back into our region as we head into the late morning hours. Towards lunch, still watching some of these showers around, but notice it's mainly focused in on Kentucky. Getting into the afternoon, still watching some of these showers in our area before we dry out towards the evening hours. Now, once we get into tonight, still seeing a few isolated showers here and there, with temperatures still hovering in the 60s for most of us. Once you get past midnight, with that front still hanging out in our area, more of this rain will be drifting back to the north through our region. Just question is, how far north will that band go? As of right now, it looks to clip some of our southern Indiana counties, with some pockets of heavy rain possible here and there. Once we get into Thursday afternoon, drying out, seeing those clouds clearing out, and we'll watch for, of course, temperatures dropping down into the 40s come Thursday night. How much rain will we see? So on top of that ½ inch to 2 inches of rain that we've already seen in parts of wave country, we could add on an additional inch plus in some spots between today and tomorrow. That looks a little bit more likely for those of you in Kentucky. However, if that band of rain moves further to the north, then those of you in Indiana are also going to get in on some of those heavier rainfall totals, so make sure you're staying weather aware. Friday, plenty of sunshine, highs in the 60s. Getting into the weekend, we're trending a little bit drier for your Saturday for the daytime hours. But as we head into Saturday night and then Sunday, here comes this next front, bringing some more of those showers into our region. We'll keep an eye on that throughout the day on Sunday, drying out once we get towards your Monday. And we'll be on the drier side for Tuesday as well of next week before yet another system brings, yes, more rain towards the middle of next week. So a lot to watch over the next 10 days.
Yeah, no kidding. Thank you. Well, one of the men charged in connection to Crystal Rogers' disappearance will have a separate trial from the other 2 men. Stephen Lawson won't go on trial with his son Joseph, and Brooks Houck, who was Crystal Rogers' boyfriend at the time she disappeared. A judge ruled at a joint trial that the jury would get to hear Stephen Lawson's grand jury testimonies, but not his interviews, which could cause Joseph Lawson and Brooks Houck to suffer undue prejudice. Stephen Lawson will go on trial first, starting in February in Warren County, Kentucky. A trial date for Houck and Lawson, Joseph Lawson, will be made December 5th. We've learned the name of the 18-year-old shot and killed on Halloween in Bullitt County. The Bullitt County coroner says 18-year-old Cole Bullock died from his shooting injuries Halloween morning. He was found dead near the intersection of Hillview Boulevard and Norwood Way. The Bullitt County coroner says Bullock lived close to where he was found dead, and police are still looking for the shooter. Former President Donald Trump taking back the White House in a historic election, and he spoke to supporters in Florida at about 3 o'clock this morning.
You showed up in record numbers to deliver a victory. So I want to thank the American people for the extraordinary honor of being elected your 47th president and your 45th president.
Wisconsin, the final state that sent him over the edge with more than 270 electoral votes. He's also poised to win the popular vote. Another big win in the 2024 election is flipping the Senate, and right now it is still a close call for control of the House. Let's go to Olivia taking a look at the other big stories we're following from the election.
And we're still waiting to learn when Vice President Kamala Harris will address the country today in an expected concession speech after the race for the White House was just called for former President Donald Trump. She postponed last night's speech at her alma mater, Howard University, saying there were still votes to count overnight. A spokesperson said Harris would speak at some point on Wednesday, but didn't give a clear timeline for when that would happen. And the election results already impacting the stock market. Wall Street is reacting to a victory for Donald Trump. Overnight stock futures were up as much as 1,000 points. Investors believe his administration will reduce regulations, taxes, and be more business friendly. Bitcoin hit a new record high, briefly topping 74,000. Generally, it's believed that Trump would give support to Bitcoin, helping to chart a future for the cryptocurrency. Those are some of your top election headlines. Shannon will have more news coming up in your Wake Up Watch list.
Oh, your Wake Up Watch list, the big story of the day, former President Donald Trump reclaiming the White House. Now, NBC News have called the race. The former president has more than 270 delegates he needs to secure that position. Two of his earliest wins came from Kentucky and Indiana early last night. He'll become the 47th president, just the second to secure non-consecutive terms. Metro Police investigating a shooting that sent a juvenile to the hospital. It happened last night around 10 off 41st and Market Streets. The juvenile was found inside a house with a gunshot wound to the jaw. Police say he's expected to recover, and they're still investigating. And a man charged with reckless homicide in Shively is set to appear in court today. Shively police say Robert Gill was giving a man and his girlfriend a ride when those two got into an argument. Gill told police he had a gun in his hand when he tried to stop the fight. It went off and killed the other man. Police say Gill also admitted they had been drinking earlier in the day. And soon we'll get a better idea of what changes could be coming to 9th Street. Two new proposed design options for the reimagined 9th Street project will be presented today at 4 at Central High School. The project looks to reduce lanes and make it easier for people living in West End neighborhoods to access downtown. Project leaders hope it'll improve safety and create new economic opportunities as well. Okay, get ready for a bunch of rainy days in our future.
We're watching these waves of rain pushing through. Now, right now, the band of rain that we had set up shop across the area is starting to break apart a little bit more, but still seeing more of that widespread rain from Carrollton down towards Shelby County into the metro, dealing with some heavier rain from Crestwood down towards Hillview. That does stretch through portions of Bullitt County and into Hardin County. Speaking of Hardin County, looking into E-Town, a soggy start to your day. Everybody sitting in the 60s for this morning. Will stay in the 60s throughout the day. Drying out as we head into the afternoon for all of us, and we'll watch for even more of that rain showing up once we head into tomorrow morning, and a few more rounds of rain for the weekend and into parts of next week.
We have a traffic alert as we take a live look at I-264, where the eastbound lanes at Bells Lane down to just the shoulder for traffic to get around. You can see those two vehicles that crashed this morning, and the emergency vehicles there helping out some people still walking around in that area out of their cars. So please be safe around them this morning. There's that visual of the traffic backup. It was purple because they had it closed for a brief minute, but it is back open, so that should change to red any minute now. But our traffic map, yeah, yellow, people slowing down all over the place, but that's a good thing because we want people to be slow when it's raining outside, and you can even see our speeds right there significantly slower because of all that rain coming down.
For sure. So you have your cute little rain jacket that you wore in today.
No, I don't.
Oh, I thought it was
that
over
wasn't
your
a rain
head.
jacket. That was just a jacket over my hair.
Okay.
That works too.
That works
Whatever works for you.
Hope you have a great day. Much more on the election and the results coming up on Today.
Get live streaming news, 24-hour weather, investigations, podcasts, and more, all for free with Wave Now.